When my daughter screamed, "Either you obey my husband or get out of our home," I didn't shout back. I simply smiled, picked up my suitcase, and walked away from the house I'd sacrificed everything to build. She thought I'd crumble like always. But this time, things were different. A week later, my phone showed 23 missed calls, and that was only the beginning of my plan. They would regret every cruel word, every ungrateful act. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments where you're listening from. My keys were still warm in my palm as I unlocked the front door, grocery bags cutting into my wrists. The late afternoon light slipped through the curtains, casting a golden haze across the living room, a light that usually brought peace. Not today. Ryan was sprawled across my leather armchair, the one Nora gave me for my 60th birthday, months before the cancer took her. Bare feet up, beer bottle half empty in his hand, remote balanced on his stomach. He didn't even glance my way. "Hey, Ed, grab me another beer while you're at it." I set the grocery bags down carefully, the plastic biting into my hands. "Excuse me?" "They've heard me," Ryan muttered, eyes fixed on the baseball game. Something cold. Not that cheap stuff you drink. A chill settled deep in my chest. I'd bought those imported beers just for him, spent my pension money on them. Ryan, I just walked in. "Let me put these groceries away." Now he looked up, face wearing that same smirk I'd come to hate. "What's the big deal? You're already standing. I'm comfortable." "The big deal," I said evenly, "is that this is my house." His feet hit the floor with a heavy thud. He stood up, using his size like a weapon. At 32, he towered over me, broad-shouldered and full of false confidence. "Your house?" He scoffed. "Funny, Mia and I live here. We pay the bills." He stepped closer, beer in hand. "Look, old man, let's make this simple. You want to stay here? You follow my rules." Easy as that. The kitchen door creaked open. My daughter Mia stood there, hair tied back, dish towel in hand, eyes shifting between us. "What's going on?" she asked sharply. "Your dad's making a scene," Ryan said, not breaking eye contact with me. "All I did was ask him for a beer." Mia's gaze filled with disappointment, the same look she used to give me when she was a teenager. "Dad, just get him the beer." "It's not worth arguing." But Ryan wasn't finished. He stepped closer, his breath heavy with alcohol. "See, Ed, this is how it's going to work. You live under our roof, you pull your weight. When I tell you to do something, you do it. No lip." "Our roof?" I repeated quietly. "That's right," Mia said, standing beside her husband. "Dad, either you help out and respect Ryan or you can pack your things." The words floated in the air like smoke. I looked at my daughter, the little girl who used to hide behind me during thunderstorms, and saw nothing familiar. "All right," I said finally. Ryan grinned. "Good, now about that beer, I'll pack." His grin vanished. Mia's lips parted in shock, expecting me to surrender, to apologize. But I turned toward the hallway without another word. My footsteps echoed on the wooden floor Nora and I had refinished together 20 years ago. From the closet, I pulled down the old suitcase we'd taken on our honeymoon to Banff. Now, it would take me away from everything I'd built, as I packed 3 shirts, socks, a few essentials, their hushed arguing carried from the living room. They couldn't believe I was actually leaving. The photo of Nora went into the side pocket, wrapped in a handkerchief. I added my medication, glasses, and the worn notebook where I tracked every bill, every penny I'd ever spent on them. When I wheeled the suitcase down the hall, they fell silent. Mia stood near the doorway, arms folded. Ryan slumped in the chair, pretending not to care. No one said goodbye. The old Ford started on the first try. I didn't look back at the house as I drove away. The 40-minute drive to Fairview gave me time to think. All the sacrifices came flooding back. Mia's college tuition, $35,000 a year. The overtime I worked at the power plant to keep her dream alive. The wedding, $20,000 more when Ryan's parents couldn't contribute. The down payment on the house, $70,000 from my savings. Then the monthly bills, the groceries, the repairs, all justified under one lie. That's what good fathers do. Fairview Motel sat at the edge of town, paint peeling, neon sign flickering. But the room was clean, quiet. For the first time in years, I could hear my own breathing. I opened my laptop, logging into my online accounts, checking savings, retirement, every dollar I'd earned, tracked and controlled. Every sacrifice accounted for. Tomorrow the corrections would begin. Sunday arrived gray and heavy, matching my mood. I spread papers across the motel's tiny table like a field map. Bank statements, policy numbers, copies of the deed. Time to correct 5 years of bad habits. First call Lakeside Mutual Bank. "Good morning, Mr. Porter," the rep said after I navigated the phone tree. "How can we help?" "I need to cancel the automatic mortgage payment for 319 Willow Bend, account ending in 5881. Keys clacked in the background. "That payment's been active for 5 years. "Are you certain?" "Completely." "Reason for the change?" "The occupants no longer qualify for my financial assistance." "Understood. Effective immediately." "Confirmation number, LMB A74192. A letter will arrive within 3 business days. Second call, Harborline Insurance. I need to remove 2 vehicles from my policy, Ryan's pickup and Mia's sedan. They'll establish their own coverage. When should this take effect?" "Today." Processed. Confirmation HLI 209C. Then the credit cards. Mia was an authorized user on 3 accounts, Visa, MasterCard, and the warehouse store card. "Removing authorized users will cut off new charges," the Visa rep explained. "Outstanding balances remain yours." "I understand." "Remove her now." Each call ended the same way. Confirmation numbers, effective dates, reference codes sliding neatly into my notebook. The life insurance change needed written documentation, but I started that file too. By noon I had 8 calls logged and a page full of tidy numbers, the paper trail of a man reclaiming his life. My phone stayed quiet. They wouldn't notice until something bounced. I stood by the motel window, watched a couple load luggage into a station wagon with the ease of years together. Nora and I had once moved like that, quiet, practiced, kind. The week unfolded in silence on my side and chaos on theirs. Coffee in the lobby at dawn. Eggs at Rosie's Diner. Long walks past Fairview's tidy porches and maple-lined streets. By Wednesday, 12 missed calls. By Friday, 23. I listened in order, hearing confusion give way to anger, then slide into panic. Mia asked if there'd been a banking error with the mortgage. Ryan barked about the lapsed car insurance. By midweek, their tone had changed. Urgent, cracking around the edges. "Dad, what is going on?" Mia pleaded. "The bank says you stopped the automatic payment. They want the full amount by Friday." Ryan followed with bluster. "Ed, fix the insurance." "People are asking questions." "You're making us look like deadbeats." Each message went into the trash after I wrote down the timestamps. Curiosity, not guilt, was all I felt. Thursday morning, a knock rattled my door. Through the peephole, Mia, pale and tired, and Ryan in grease-stained work clothes. I opened the door but did not step aside. "Dad," Mia whispered, eyes rimmed red. "We need to talk." "About what?" I asked. Ryan planted his boots wide. "About you trying to wreck our lives over a beer." "I'm not wrecking anything," I said evenly. "I've simply stopped paying for your lives." "The mortgage," he snapped. "You can't just stop paying." "That's our house." "Actually," I said, "it's my house. My name on the deed. My signature on the loan." "You were guests." Mia grabbed his sleeve. "Please, Dad, we can work this out." "We were harsh, but you left with no warning." "You gave me a choice," I said. "Obey Ryan or get out." I chose. "I didn't mean—" "You did," I said quietly. "You just didn't expect me to go." Ryan tried a new tone, a poor imitation of calm. "Listen, this is our credit, our whole lives. You can't just pull the rug." "I can." And I did. I began to close the door. "Dad, wait," Mia said. "What about family?" "Family works both ways. I carried you for 5 years. When it was time to show me basic respect, you chose him." Ryan's mask slipped. "You stubborn old—" "If you keep raising your voice," I said, "I'll call the police. This is private property. You're disturbing the peace." They stared like they were seeing me for the first time. Not a soft wallet on legs, but a man done apologizing. Ryan tugged Mia's arm. "Come on. We'll handle it our way." They left with less swagger than they'd arrived. I sat back at the table, opened the laptop and kept closing loops. The next morning I walked to Rosie's. The bell over the door chimed. Coffee and bacon lifted the fog in my head. "Ed Porter?" a familiar voice called. "Frank Delaney. We'd worked together at Lakeside Mutual back when I handled personal loans and he did commercial." He slid into the booth. "Heard you're staying at the Fairview Motel. Everything all right?" "Sorting family matters," I said. Truth neatly folded. Frank lowered his voice. "That son-in-law of yours tried to pull one on the bank a few months ago." My cup paused halfway to my lips. What kind of one? He applied for a home equity loan on your house, 50 grand. Said it was his property. Brought documents and everything. The diner noise faded to a thin hum. What happened? We ran the title search. Everything traced to you. Clean title. No co-signers. His papers were forged. Frank frowned. We flagged it. And you didn't report it? No funds dispersed, legally grey. But I kept copies. He tapped the newspaper. Word is he's got gambling debt. Talk to Officer Reed Lawson, he'd know. By the time I reached the motel, my hands had stopped shaking. I opened a new document, Ryan Mercer, evidence. Frank's revelation was just the first thread. I started pulling. The courthouse closed at 5. I had an hour. The clerk's office processed my 30-day notice to quit with the dry efficiency of a machine. Mr. Porter, you understand this is your daughter's residence? The clerk asked, scanning the deed against my paperwork. It is my property, I replied. The residence violated the terms of occupancy. What terms? A verbal agreement requiring mutual respect and reasonable contribution to household expenses. Both breached. Stamp, stamp. Notice period starts today. The sheriff will serve within 48 hours unless they contest. Next stop, the Fairview Police Department. Detective Reed Lawson listened as I laid out the ultimatum, the forged documents, the whispers about Glacier Ridge Casino. Ryan's a regular, Lawson said. Mostly poker. Multiple creditors. We estimate 18 to 20,000 owed. Some are patient. Some aren't. What timeline? He's been stalling 6 weeks. At 3 months, the wolves come to the door. That night, in the quiet glow of the motel lamp, I updated the evidence file. Dates, names, confirmation numbers. A banker's habit. Document first, sleep later, tomorrow. I'd make a different kind of call, not to pay Ryan's debts, but to correct his address on file and make it clear he had no legal claim to my property. In small towns like Fairview, the truth travels faster than a lie. And once it starts moving, there's no way to stop it. By Friday morning, the whispers had already spread across Fairview like wildfire. At the post office, Mrs. Connolly, who'd chaired every church potluck for 2 decades, cornered me near the stamp machine. Ed, dear, she said in that syrupy voice that always carried news faster than the paper. I heard you moved out of your house. Is everything all right? I knew better than to dodge. Mia and Ryan wanted to handle their own finances. I thought it was best to give them the chance. Her eyebrows arched so high they nearly vanished into her hair. They asked you to leave your own home. It was mutual, I said calmly. Well, she sniffed, everyone always wondered how they could afford that house on his salary. By the time I stopped at Foster's Hardware, half the staff already knew. Tom, the owner, set down his clipboard. Ed, what's this I hear about you moving into the motel? I told him the short version. Ryan's temper. The ultimatum. My decision, Tom whistled low. You paid their mortgage and their wedding? Man's got nerve talking down to you. Sarah, from the paint counter, chimed in. Explains a lot. Ryan always said his family was helping the old man out. Figures. By the time I left, I could practically feel the story traveling from mouth to mouth, truth sharpening with every retelling. Next stop was Grace Lutheran Church. Pastor Walker welcomed me into his office, eyes kind behind round glasses. Ed, he said, a few people have mentioned concerns. How are you holding up? I told him what I'd told no one else. The years of quiet sacrifices, the disrespect, the final confrontation. He listened, hands folded, then said softly, sometimes love becomes enabling, and the most faithful act is to stop shielding someone from consequences. I nodded. That's what I finally learned. By the time I walked back to the motel, the entire town was humming with new understanding. At Annie's cafe, snippets of conversation floated around me. Ryan Mercer owes money all over Fairview. Ed Porter's been paying their bills for years. Heard he stopped everything overnight. I sipped my coffee silently. The truth didn't need my help anymore. It was walking on its own 2 legs. That evening, Mrs. Patterson, my neighbor of 20 years, called. Ed, honey, I hate to bother you, but there's been shouting at your old place all day. Mostly him. I saw a patrol car pass by twice. Thank you, Helen. I appreciate you keeping an eye out. You sure you're safe out there? I'm fine. For the first time in years, I hung up, exhaled slowly, and glanced at my notes. The social current was shifting exactly as planned. No vengeance, no gossiping. Just truth, placed where people could see it. But Ryan was never one to take losing quietly. Saturday morning, my phone began buzzing before breakfast. Tom from the hardware store, Mrs. Connolly, Pastor Walker. Each call carried the same report. Ryan was making his own rounds, spreading a different story. "Ed, he's saying you abandoned them," Tom said angrily. "Claims you promised to take care of them forever, then snapped because of dementia. Even said Mia's having medical problems and you're refusing to help." "Thank you, Tom," I said evenly. "That tracks." Half an hour later, Detective Lawson called. "Just so you know, Ryan was in here this morning, trying to file a complaint for elder abuse. Says you're being manipulated by someone at the bank." I almost laughed. "You didn't take it seriously, I hope." "Not for a second," Lawson said. "Told him he'd need medical proof and witnesses." He left angry. An hour later, Mia called. "Dad, please pick up." Her message began, trembling. "I'm pregnant. The doctor says the stress might make me lose the baby. Please stop all this." The words hit like a hammer, and yet something felt off. Too convenient, too timed. "Congratulations," I said when I finally called back. "When did you find out?" "Last week," she sniffled. "Right before everything happened." "Which doctor?" "Dr. Simmons at the Women's Center. I knew Dr. Simmons, Nora's old physician. I'll call her office to discuss the bills directly," I said. "You can't call my doctor, that's private." "Then have her call me," I replied. The line went dead. Later that afternoon, I was walking past Main Street Bank when I heard Ryan's voice echoing from the sidewalk. "He's lost it," he was shouting to a small crowd. "Senile old fool kicked his pregnant daughter out over nothing." People turned when they saw me. "Hello, Ryan," I said calmly. "How are those gambling debts treating you?" He froze. "What?" $18,000. Glacier Ridge Casino. Mostly poker. I faced the onlookers. Amazing what people risk when they're spending someone else's money. The murmurs began immediately. Ryan's jaw worked soundlessly. "You're insane. I have documentation," I said quietly. "Can you document where your paychecks went?" By the time he turned and stormed off, half the town already had their phones out. By evening, social media was doing my work for me. Back at the motel, I organized everything. The forged documents, the debt reports, the bank notes, the incident at the bank. Ryan's lies were collapsing under the weight of his own arrogance, but the pregnancy claim still bothered me. If Mia truly was expecting, I didn't want innocent life tangled in her husband's mess. I called Dr. Simmons's office. "If there's any emergency with Mia Mercer, let me know," I said. "I'll handle the bills." The receptionist hesitated. "Sir, I can't discuss patients, but—" "There's no record under that name." So the pregnancy was just another move in their long game. That night, my motel door rattled with a knock. Steve, the night manager, a retired Marine, looked uneasy. "Mr. Porter," that young man who was shouting earlier, came back. Hung around your door for a few minutes, muttering. "We've got him on the security camera." "What was he saying?" "Something about teaching old fools lessons." Perfect evidence. The next morning, Detective Lawson took the flash drive, brows lifting as he watched the footage. "This plus yesterday's confrontation is more than enough," he said. "We'll file for a restraining order. He won't be allowed within 500 feet of you or your property." I exhaled for what felt like the first time in days. Finally, action that meant something. But Lawson wasn't finished. "One more thing, Ed. He talked to a lawyer yesterday, asked about adverse possession laws." The words chilled me. "You mean squatters' rights?" "Exactly. He wanted to know how long he'd need to stay in your house to claim it." "Montana law says 5 years. He's been there 3. I stared at him, realization dawning. He hadn't just been lazy or entitled. He'd been building a legal theft. Lawson's tone hardened. "You've got nothing to worry about." He can't claim ownership without paying taxes or proving hostile occupancy. But it shows intent. He pushed the restraining order across the desk, signed by the judge, effective immediately. When I walked out of the station, papers in hand, the autumn wind felt sharper, cleaner. Ryan had spent 3 years plotting to steal my home. Now he couldn't even come near it. That afternoon, I drove straight to the courthouse to file the restraining order officially. The clerk stamped the document with brisk efficiency. "Mr. Porter, this takes effect immediately," she said. If he approaches you or your property, call us. The sheriff will handle it." "Thank you," I said. I planned to sleep well tonight for the first time in years, but I didn't even make it back to the motel before the next storm arrived. My phone buzzed with a call from Mike Davis, owner of Evergreen Auto, where Ryan worked. "Ed, I hate to ask," Mike began, voice uneasy, "but are the rumors true? Ryan says you had some kind of breakdown and kicked him out after accusing him of stealing. What exactly did he tell you?" "That you're having memory issues. Said you threw them out because of paranoia. He also claimed there's a family emergency you refused to help with." I could hear the disbelief in Mike's tone. "Mike, you've known me 20 years, I said. My mind's fine. My banker, lawyer, and the police will confirm it. Ryan's been lying for months, gambling debts, fraud, forged loan papers, the works." A long sigh came through the line. "I figured as much. Ed, I can't have that kind of trouble around customers. I'll be letting him go today." "Do what you need to do," I said simply. By the time I reached Annie's cafe, Ryan's fall from grace was already visible through the window. The tow truck was parked in front of my old house, a man in a Frontier financial jacket knocking on the door. Creditors were closing in. My phone rang again, Mia's number. "Dad," she said, voice trembling, "there are men here asking about Ryan's debts. They're talking about garnishing wages, seizing assets. The sheriff just served some kind of papers too. Harry, Ryan's furious. He's throwing things." "That'll be the restraining order," I said quietly. "What is happening?" She cried. "What's happening," I said, "is that reality has caught up. Those are his debts, not mine. I told you he owed 18,000. Now you see the cost of pretending not to know." Silence, then a whisper. "He told me he was working late nights to pay bills." "I know. He was gambling instead." She started to sob. "He says there's nothing left here, that he might just leave town. Then maybe that's the first honest thing he's said in years. Dad." "What am I supposed to do?" "Make choices based on truth, not love for a lie," I said gently. "You're old enough to decide who you want to be." That night I parked across the street from my old house. The lights inside flickered, silhouettes moving, arguing. Through the front window, I saw Ryan pacing, arms flying, while Mia stood near the kitchen, frozen. The foundation of their perfect little life was cracking, and I felt no joy, only a long, quiet relief. A text buzzed on my phone. Steve, the motel manager. "That guy was back tonight. Tried to get into the building again. I told him about the restraining order. He left angry. Got it on camera. Perfect. More evidence. Sunday morning, Detective Lawson met me at his office. He reviewed the new footage, nodding. That's a clear violation of the order. We'll issue a warning first, then arrest if he tries again." He looked up. "You know, Ed, for what it's worth, most men in your shoes would have just kept paying. You did the hard thing." "Sometimes the hard thing's the only way to stay sane," I said. The next few days unfolded in slow, predictable collapse. Ryan lost his job at Evergreen Auto. 3 different collection agents visited the house, each one less polite than the last. Mrs. Patterson called again. "They've been screaming all day, dear. He's packed a suitcase. By midweek he was gone. Truck, debts, lies, all vanished in the rearview mirror." That evening I called Mia. "Meet me at Rosie's diner," I said. "Just you." "I can't," she whispered. "He might come back any minute." "Mia, the restraining order keeps him away from me, not you. If you want to talk, you have until Sunday." A long pause. 2:00, she said finally. I arrived early, took my usual corner booth and ordered black coffee. When Mia walked in, she looked older, eyes tired, posture wilted. She slid into the seat across from me and spoke before I could. "Dad, I know you're angry, but everything's falling apart. The debts, the house, the gossip. I can't go anywhere without hearing whispers." I folded my hands. "I'm offering you one chance, Mia, to end this with dignity." Her brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "I want you to tell the truth publicly. Sunday morning at church, during testimony time." Her mouth fell open. "You want me to humiliate myself?" "No," I said softly. "I want you to be honest. There's a difference, and if I don't, then that's your choice. But understand, without truth, there's no relationship left between us." She stared down at her untouched cup. "What about the house?" "It's not yours anymore," I said. "I've donated it to the Fairview Veterans Housing Program. 3 families will live there, people who know what real sacrifice looks like." Her face went pale. "You changed the will?" "Witnessed, signed, and filed." Her voice cracked. Even if I do everything you ask? Even then, I said. This isn't about inheritance. It's about integrity. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Dad, can you ever forgive me? I forgave you the night I walked out, I said quietly. But forgiveness and trust are different things. Trust takes time, and truth. When she left, she looked lighter, as if some decision had already begun forming in her heart. I sat in that booth long after she'd gone, watching the late autumn light slant through the window, wondering whether she would find the courage to face the truth. Sunday would tell me everything. Sunday morning broke crisp and clear over Fairview. I pulled on my best grey jacket, the one Nora had always said made me look distinguished, and walked the 2 blocks to Grace Lutheran Church. The sanctuary was fuller than usual. Word had spread, Fairview's favourite pastime. People sensed something was about to happen. I took my usual pew, 3rd row from the front. Pastor Walker opened the service with the standard hymns, but there was a current of anticipation running beneath every verse. When it came time for open testimony, I saw Mia stand up from the back. She walked down the center aisle, small and pale but steady, every eye following her. At the podium, she gripped the sides as if to keep herself upright. I need to tell you all something about my father, she began, voice trembling but clear. You could have heard a pin drop. For the past 5 years, my dad, Edward Porter, has supported me and my husband financially. He paid for my college, my wedding, and the house we live in. He paid our bills when we couldn't. He used his retirement savings and his Social Security to keep us comfortable. And when he finally asked for respect, we gave him an ultimatum: obey or leave his own home. A collective murmur swept through the congregation. She went on. My husband, Ryan, disrespected the man who had given us everything, and I stood by and let it happen. Dad didn't yell. He didn't fight. He just packed his things and walked out the door. And in that moment, I lost not just my father, but my own integrity. Tears streaked down her face, but her words grew stronger. I came here today because my father asked me to tell the truth. He deserved gratitude and respect, and instead I gave him silence. She turned toward me. Dad, I know sorry isn't enough, but I mean it with all I have left. Silence. Then a rustle of movement, people wiping their eyes, nodding, murmuring words of support. Pastor Walker stepped forward, voice thick with emotion. Courage takes many forms. Today we've witnessed the hardest kind, the courage to confess and the grace to forgive. After the benediction, I stood quietly as people filed out, shaking my hand, some hugging me, others whispering kind words. Mrs. Connolly dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief. We all wondered, Ed, but we didn't know the half of it. Tom from the hardware store clapped my shoulder. That girl's got guts, and so do you. Outside, the November sunlight hit like a blessing. Mia waited near the steps. The letter to the Tribune runs Wednesday, she said softly, and I posted everything on Facebook last night, full details, college, wedding, mortgage, no excuses. Good, I said simply. She hesitated. Ryan left town yesterday, packed his truck and disappeared, no goodbye, no note. I nodded. Men like him always do when the truth catches up. I filed for divorce this morning, she added quietly. Found out he'd been using my credit cards for gambling. The debts were worse than I imagined. I'm sorry, Mia. She shook her head. Don't be, I'm free for the first time in years. 3 months later, I stood in front of my old home, now fully renovated into 3 family apartments under the Fairview Veterans Housing Program. The yard was alive with laughter. Children played on the swing set donated by the hardware store. Staff Sergeant Maria Sanchez, recently back from deployment, waved as she helped her son carry boxes inside. Mr. Porter, thank you, she said, smiling. You've given us a home. No, I replied. You earned it. The decision to donate the house had brought peace I hadn't known in years. No more bills, no more guilt, no more unspoken resentment hanging in the air. My new cabin by Pine Lake was modest but perfect. Morning coffee on the deck, fishing in the afternoons, books and quiet music in the evenings. One evening, as the sun dipped low and turned the water into molten gold, my phone buzzed. A message from Mia. Dad, I'm 3 months into counseling. Learning a lot about boundaries and forgiveness. Could we have coffee sometime? I'd like to earn your trust back, one step at a time. I smiled, watching an osprey glide over the lake. She'd kept her promises, the article, the public apology, the honesty. Maybe now we could rebuild something real. Coffee sounds good. Saturday morning at Rosie's. Bring that dandelion smile I used to love. Her reply came seconds later. I'll be there. Thank you, Dad, for not giving up on me completely. The osprey plunged into the lake and rose with a fish in its talons. Sometimes patience rewards those who stand their ground. The past was gone, but dignity remained. And in the laughter of children echoing from the house I'd once called home, I heard something else return. Peace. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box to your left. Thank you for watching.